to Australia, welcome to Australian Booktables, and welcome to this week's book review, book recommendation and book harvest. So a little bit of everything today. I hope you've all had a great weekend. Well, here in Australia, here in central Victoria, it was warm and it was beautiful and sunny. No rain. We need rain desperately, but I decided to go out into the garden all weekend. I have not been out in the garden for a long time, a little bit, but not really concentrating on trying to get the garden clean and tidy for winter. And I spent all day, and I'm really paying for it now. I am aches and pains and cuts and scratches and bruises. I think I've got a bruise on my face. I don't know what happened, but anyway. I had a great weekend and I hope you did too. Yeah, I hope you had a nice one, wherever you are in the world. Okay, let's start. On Saturday, this last Saturday, I uploaded a video for you on the town of Clunes, and more importantly, its International Book Festival. It was just phenomenal. If you haven't seen the video, please go and have a look. It'll show you a little bit of Clunes, give you a bit of history, but it will show you only a very small portion of the book festival because the whole town was full of books, book buying, book dealing, author signing. It was just amazing. And they had bookbinder and paper merchants, bookmarks, book plates for sale. It was just unbelievable. And they had beautiful cafes, and then they had also takeaway vans and things. So you didn't get to see all of the festival in the video because it would have gone on for hours. And I really did want to show you parts of the town and its beauty and its history. But from that festival, I did get to buy a few books. So I want to show them to you now and perhaps pique your interest, certainly to pique your interest in the festival. It's on every year. It used to be on in May, I think, but this year, and I think from now on, March, it seemed to be on this year. So I'm not sure whether that changes, or I can find out anyway if you're interested. Or you can get on the website and have a look at the Shire Hepburn offices, or I think Clunes Book Festival has its own page, but you can Google it anyway and have a look. Okay, let's get on to it. Trusty spectacles. Now, there was everyone there. There were Reading's Bookshop, there were independent sellers, the Art Gallery of Ballarat was there, and I did buy a book from them, which we'll get to see in a second. But also there were some charities. So there was Make-A-Wish, and I think it was Read to Me, which is featured in the video. Absolutely fantastic. So there was a whole gamut of different booksellers, and there are permanent bookshops there as well. So it's really exciting. So from Make-A-Wish, you could make a donation. And I think I bought, actually, which one did I buy? I think I may have actually bought the Magic Pudding from there. I thought it may have been Toto in Tuscany. No, but I think it was the Magic Pudding. Anyway, wherever I bought them from, this is the Magic Pudding by Norman Lindsay. This is an old hardcover. And now this one was, it's got a little bit of writing in there, but this was published by Angus and Robertson, which is an Australian company. And they were publishers. I think now they're just booksellers online. They don't have a physical shop anymore. This was reprinted in 1951. Norman Lindsay was an extremely famous artist, but he also wrote children's books. One or two of them were actually banned, I think, at the time of publication. But he was a wonderful artist and a brilliant children's author. And he is most famous for the Magic Pudding, with beautiful little illustrations. This is about a koala and his family, and the shenanigans that he gets up to, and the people and the animals he comes across. But they're little etchings and pencil drawings, and with a little bit of colour. Now, Norman Lindsay was born actually in Victoria, in Creswick, which was just north of Ballarat. And I think he was born in, don't quote me, but I think he was born in the later 1870s and died in the late 60s, I think. If I'm really terribly wrong on that, I will let you know in the subtitles, but I think it was about that. And I think he was elderly when he died. It must have been about 90, which would be right, wouldn't it? If he was born in the late 1870s and then died in 1960s, that would be about right. He was 90. So, yeah, this is a wonderful story for adults. You know, I really encourage adults to read children's and young adult books. But this, many years ago, the children's books were really readable, really quite relatable and readable by adults. And this is one of them. This has just got a little bit of writing in it, but this was by donation. I bought this. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It is a classic children's book by a wonderful artist, Australian. So for those of you wanting an Australian author, Norman Lindsay, mainly children's books, and The Magic Pudding, of which he is most famous. Now, another book I bought secondhand, a lot of them I bought secondhand actually. I think I only bought one new. This is Toto in Tuscany. I haven't seen this before. This is a true story about a couple who, Louise Badger and Lawrence Kershaw, who buy a villa in Tuscany because of an elderly dog that they found at the villa. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure it has photos in it of Toto, the dog, and of the home that they finally purchased. I think they were vacationing in it, and then they were holidaying in it, and then they eventually bought it, I think. I have yet to read the book, so it'll be interesting. Now, I think the dog, this is by Hodder and Stoughton, and it was first published in Great Britain in 2012. I'm really looking forward to it. I think reading the inner flap here, Toto's mistress had died 2 years before, and Toto had been in the home on his own, or around the home on his own for that period of time, just waiting for new owners. So that'll be really interesting. I'm sure it will be sad or happy for the most part, I'm hoping. But I'm looking forward to that. I just thought it would be a light read, and it was not that expensive. Now, one of my favourite authors, well, no. Yes, maybe my favourite poet, one of my favourite poets, but certainly my favourite artist is William Morris. Now, the Art Gallery of Ballarat had a stall. In fact, I think it's in the video from Clunes last Saturday. The Ballarat Art Gallery had an exhibition of William Morris, and I didn't know. Had I known, I would have been there in a flash. But the marquee that they had at Clunes had a few books as overflow from that exhibition that they were selling. And this is News from Nowhere and Other Writings. William Morris was most famous in the late 1800s. I think he was born in the 1830s and died in the... don't quote me when he died. He may have died in the late 1800s, like 1890s. Again, I'll correct myself in the subtitles. But he was most famous for his artwork, and really was one of the founders, or was one of the really movers and shakers of the arts and crafts movement in England. I absolutely adore his designs. He's now really famous for wallpapers and interior furnishings. But this is his these are a collection of his writings. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. This is new and was from the Art Gallery of Ballarat. Looking forward to it. Another one is by a South African writer, Joy Packer, The Man in the Muse, second-hand hardcover. And this was, let me see, this was first published, and it's not very quick, 1964. In 1964, now in Great Britain, by Ebenezer Bayliss and Son. This was part of the book club that was well known in England. They published a lot of hardcovers, and the book club published a lot of, romance, and I think, and I may be corrected on this, but I think they had also an association with the Detective Book Club that was initiated in London, and you could subscribe, and then each month they would send you a book. I think the book club was more just was fiction, so romance and all that sort of thing. This is one of those books. It's not real romance. There's a little bit associated in it, but I think it's got to do a lot with just day-to-day life. So the title really took me in, The Man in the Muse, and I haven't read Joy Packer before, so I was very interested to pick her up. I haven't seen a lot of her work here in Australia, so I'm looking forward to that. That's another one. You know I love George Eliot, or those of you who know me well know that I love George Eliot, and I bought a copy of her Silas Marner. Now this is a Penguin English Library. That noise was just one of the dogs shaking. I hope you sit down properly, mister. Behave. Okay, so it was first published in 1861, but this copy was published in 1967. So, and this one was published by Penguin Books in Australia, which was in Ringwood at the time. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a paperback, and I have read Silas Marner before, but that was a long time ago. So I'm looking forward to reading that again in the paperback version. Now, two American authors in the old, you know I love the Penguin mystery and crime books in the green and white. I picked these up. They are both Americans, Ellery McQueen, which of course is as a collaboration of two authors, Denny and Lee. Now, what were their full names? I can't remember, but I know they were Denny and Lee. And they actually both wrote the Ellery Queen books, mysteries, which, now this one, I'm just trying to look for you whilst I'm thinking. I'm fairly sure I've got that right. Ellery Queen was two authors. If I'm wrong on that, because I'm just going from the top of my head here from memory, and that can be doubtful at times. This was published in 1956, but it was first published in 1934 in Great Britain by the Whitefriars Press. But of course, this is the unabridged version in the Penguin Mystery and Crime Green and White Classics. Oh, here we go. Oh, thank goodness for that. It saved me. I was right. It's Frederick Denney, although I think sometimes they spell it D-A-N-N-E-Y rather than A-Y. I think sometimes people misspell it. And this is Manfred, I think his name's Manfred Bennington Lee. So I was right. Oh, thank goodness for that. I thought I was leading you astray. But they both wrote the Ellery Queen mysteries. So I'm looking forward to that. Americans, and the American Earl Stanley Gardner, The Case of the Phantom Fortune, who of course was the author of, thank you Rooney, thank you, if you'd like to sit down, I'm sure not very many people want to see the back of your head. Thank you, Rooney. He was famous for writing the Perry Mason books. So I'm looking forward to this. This is The Case of the Phantom Fortune, again in the Penguin Green and White we're going to have an accident here with the dog. The Green and White Mystery and Crime Classics. This was first published in... When were you first published? This was first published... Oh, please help me out here. When were you first published? 1964. There you go. I found it. But this edition was by Penguin in 2013. It is really new, as opposed to this old fellow here, which is a little bit... I've got hair all over me. I'm molting, everyone. I'm molting. So, yeah, you can see that that's a little bit older. It's a little bit yellower. But I'm looking forward to those. They're my books. The Man in the Muse we've already spoken about. Now, this is a little different. You would have seen in the video, in the Clunes video. If you haven't, again, I advise, really encourage you to go and watch the video. Elisa Duke is an artist. She is a watercolour pencil artist, and she buys or procures these old books. This one is Muddy Boots and Sunday Suits by Fred Archer. So it is a nature memoir. I'm really looking forward to this. But Elisa actually draws in them. So whatever is in the chapter or in the book overall, she draws in watercolour pencil. And of course, this chapter is Strawberries for Tea. So she has drawn the strawberries. I'm looking forward to writing the book, but of course it's a piece of art as well. So I was really thrilled to get this. I did buy another one for a friend, and I will show you that at some point, but I don't want to show it here because I don't want them seeing the artwork or the book. But she's a really talented artist and is doing a wonderful job with books that perhaps may have been thrown out or eventually destroyed. She has saved them and put her artwork in them. So it's a twofold treasure, really, for the reader and the art lover. So that's that book. So that's, oh no, there is one more thing. In the video for Clunes, I had a little section where there was tea being, I think it's tea for two, or again, I will clarify this. I'm doing this all off the top of my head, and that video was actually videoed a few weeks ago. So the video for last Saturday was videoed a few weeks ago. So I'm a bit cloudy with memory, but, I think it's, here we go. A Story in a Teacup. So that's what the company is called. And there were two types of tea. One was for The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Bennett. What did I just say? I can't remember. Secret Garden. Frances Hodgson. Isn't that terrible? I've forgotten the second name. I'll get back to you on that. I've just had a complete blank. Anyway, this one is Jane Austen's Miss Bennet's English Breakfast Tea. It was absolutely delicious in the tasting, so I bought myself a packet of tea. It is blended by A Story in a Teacup, and so it is an unusual... It's English breakfast, but it's a bit stronger. And the recommendation is to pair this tea with Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, After Story by Larissa Bernhardt, Unmarriageable by Sonia Kamal, A Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I love A Woman in White, and we will actually review that in good time. It is an old classic. It's absolutely fantastic. Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld, and Death Comes to Pemberley by P.D. James. So that's the recommendation, and lovely tea, really lovely tea. The other tea for Secret Garden was delicious too, but was recommended to have cold and on ice in summer. Now that we're coming into winter, I thought the English breakfast was more suitable. and likely I will go back to a story in a teacup, perhaps in spring, and get the other Secret Garden tea leaves. They're loose leaf, by the way, which is lovely. I always love loose leaf tea. Okay, so that's that for Clunes. They were the purchases made. It was lovely going. I really recommend going to Clunes. It's a really spread out town. It's undulating. In the video, it may look flat because the camera doesn't pick up the nuances in the topography, but it is actually quite hilly. There are some streets that are flat. The main street, Fraser Street, is probably the flattest, I think. And it has a couple of beautiful rivers, just beautiful. So I do recommend it, and they have lovely cafes, and they do have bookshops, and they have a museum, a library, and yeah, a few other really, and of course the beautiful history of the churches and things. So I recommend going to Clunes. So if you're ever in Victoria, Clunes is definitely a destination for you. Now, the 3 books that I really would like to just go over now with you and recommend, and highly recommend. I showed you in a book harvest a few weeks ago. I picked up Jane, I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago now, Lucy Worsley's Jane Austen at Home. This is a biography of Jane Austen. I love Jane Austen, absolutely love her works, and I love reading anything about Jane Austen. Ordinarily, I am not an autobiography fan, so I do tend to keep away from those unless they are particularly people I really respect. And one of those is Dame Judi Dench. I do have her autobiography, and I will be reading that and then giving you the lowdown on that in good time. Biographies are another step altogether. I do enjoy a good biography on characters or historical characters who I really either admire or respect or just generally interested in. Normally the Tudors and the Plantagenets, and Charles Dickens, but also Jane Austen. Now, I have read a few biographies on Jane Austen. I would have to say Lucy Worsley's is the best. It is the most comprehensive. It is the most it's the closest that you'll get to Jane Austen, I think, without knowing Jane Austen. Now, Lucy Worsley is an historian. She is also a presenter on a number of documentaries through the BBC. She has done a documentary on Jane Austen and Agatha Christie and a few other English queens. And I think she's also the curator for historic palaces, I believe. But I'm just trying to think. I'm sure I'm right in that, and apologies if I'm wrong. But Lucy Worsley would have to be the most factual and the most incredible historian and brilliant presenter of history that I've ever watched. I think she brings to life these people. She's not just factual, but she brings to life the characters and has done it beautifully in this biography of Jane Austen. Sometimes biographies can be a little bit dry, a little bit academic. Lucy brings the facts in here, but she really brings the warmth of the characters, and not just Jane Austen, but her family, her mother, her fractious relationship with her mother, but also her brothers and her sister, the characters, the men who wanted to propose or who did propose to Jane Austen, and perhaps presenting some of the reasons. We will never know why she never really married, but Lucy presents the possibilities of why Jane Austen didn't marry. One of them was her career, but there were other factors involved as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. I haven't quite finished it. There's only a few pages, probably 20 pages to go, because the majority of what is left here is really bibliography and notes. So I think I've only got about 20 pages to go, but I am so enjoying this that I wanted to present it to you today because I really do recommend it. Lucy Worsley would have to be my favourite historian and favourite presenter in documentaries. She's quirky, she's in herself, she exudes warmth and a love and passion for those that she is presenting. So I recommend this. It's an absolutely fantastic book. The other one is Eva Ibbotson's Glove Shop in Vienna and Other Stories. Now, this publication they're beautifully presented. This is the Macmillan Collector's Library. I'm just trying to see when they published this. It was first published in 1984, but this one was published in, no, 88 perhaps. That doesn't seem right, does it? Oh, 2021. There you go, there it is, 2021. Now, these Macmillan Collector's Libraries didn't really excite me. I see them in bookshops and I just think, oh, they're little and they're not, I mean, they're lovely hardcover, but, you know, when I'm reading a book, I want a substantial book. And, you know, if you can see the size difference there's quite a difference. They're beautifully presented. They have on the end of the pages the gold, and they have beautiful end page papers. The design is absolutely stunning. And when you take the dust cover off, the sort of like a duck egg blue really, I'm hoping you can see that it's embossed with bits of the end paper. So there's, I think there's oak and roses, oak leaf and acorns and roses in there. I hope you can see it. I'll just try and give you that. And then in gold, the title. So because they were so small, I wasn't particularly interested in buying them. And then I saw Eva Ibbotson's and I thought, no, I really want to read her stories. She had a lot to do with Russia and Vienna. I think she was born in Vienna in the 1920s. Again, if I'm wrong on that, I will correct myself. But Eva, I was interested in reading her work and I found this one, so I thought, gosh, I'll just pick it up, I'll just buy it. It was probably the best move I made because when I go travelling on the train or if you were to travel on a plane, these are so easy to put into your handbag or your backpack. They're really a really good idea. They're fantastic for travel. And look, I have been reading the stories just one a night at bedtime. But as I say, I have, when I've been travelling to Melbourne, I just pop it in my handbag and I read a story or two on the train. They're lovely. I recommend Eva Ibbotson's. They're quirky stories, they're short, and they have some really quirky endings and some quirky tales in the story. So I recommend Eva Ibbotson's, but I certainly recommend the Macmillan Collector's Library. I think, as opposed as I was to buying them, I think that they're a really great idea for travel. I did buy another one, I think, did I buy War and Peace? I can't remember, but when I read it, I'll certainly present that to you. But as it is now, I really have been loving Eva's books, Eva's stories, and I wanted to present this book to you because I think they are a great idea. They're a great size. Some of them, depending on the story, they're quite thick, but the size is fantastic to slip into a bag, backpack or even a suitcase. They're really, really good value. The other one that, Dear Mr. Murray, I bought this a little while ago, and I showed it to you then in the book harvest. This is Letters to a Gentleman Publisher. These are true letters written by various authors to the publisher, John Murray, in England, in the UK. The reason why I'm presenting this is because in Lucy Worsley's book, she writes that eventually Jane Austen has John Murray as her publisher. And the excerpts of the letters from Jane to the publisher are here, and they are, conversely, they are in here in the, I didn't tag it actually, but they're, I flipped through and saw that they had Jane Austen's letters in the book. So I think this is really worth getting if you are buying more classic books so that you can read the letters from the author to the publisher. I think this was great value. I'm so glad I bought this, because when Lucy Worsley presented the fact that Jane Austen was using John Murray as her publisher, I immediately went to this to have a look for the letter. And this has Jane Austen, Lord Byron, David Livingstone, George Bernard Shaw, Samuel Smiles, William Wordsworth, Freya Stark, Mary Shelley, Walter Scott, Charles Darwin, Isabel Bird. So it's really worth buying if you're reading a lot of the classics. I'm so glad I bought this, and it was just by coincidence. I wasn't looking for it. So I'm so happy I bought that. Okay, so the next video, with that all having been done, the next video will be Saturday's travel video. If you haven't watched any of the travel videos, may I suggest that you do. I'm getting a lot of really good feedback about them. I go around the towns and I look for bookshops and libraries, and even if I don't do that, we go to events, or I really, in amongst all that, I try and give you a walk around the streets so that you see the real Australia, and we also I give you a bit of the history on the places as well. So if you haven't already, please go back to the main section of the channel and have a look if you're interested. And I try to give you, some of the Australian authors have, of course, they've been born in some of these locations, so I give you that information as well where I can. So if I don't see you Saturday, I will see you next Monday for the next book harvest or the next book review or recommendations. And I am right now organising a trip away. I'm taking you further across Victoria so that we see different places. We're not just hanging around the goldfields. We're going to other places which may be of interest to you, and you get to see a little bit of a different Australia. So I'm looking forward to taking you, and also we'll be looking at the accommodation that I stay at. I am taking the dogs with me on one of the trips particularly, and I am staying in a dog-friendly accommodation. So we'll show you that as well, and I'll give you the information so that if you do have your dogs, if you are in Australia and you're travelling with your dogs, it just gives you a helping hand on where to stay. I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping it's not disastrous, but I'm trying to do that as well as show you the locations around Australia, and also the bookshops and libraries, and maybe even some of the museums and things. And I'm trying to take you to a number of events, interesting events, not just book festivals, but you know, we go to car rallies and do all sorts of things. So I'm looking forward to showing you those. Anyway, I can take these off now. Anyway, I'm hoping that gives you something to think about and something to read, and a place to go, which is Clunes and the Clunes Annual Book Festival. And until next time, happy reading, good eating. You know I love good food. Happy eating, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.